Window open for games to resume tonight. Adrian Wojnarowski is reporting that the expectation is that games resume Saturday. So Chris Broussard still with us. Which team, Chris, will be hurt the most by the postponement?
Well, you can obviously make a strong argument that any of really the top 5 teams, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Bucks, the Raptors, the Celtics, any of them could be negatively affected because all of them have at least talked about boycotting games. You know, Toronto and Boston were actually the first we heard. We know about the 2 LA teams, you know, reportedly walking out of the meeting and ready to give up the season, and then what Milwaukee did. But if you force me to pick one, then I will say Milwaukee. Obviously, George Hill is one of their leaders. He's not the best player, but he's certainly obviously one of their leaders, and I'm not sure he wants to be there. I know the Bucks as a whole voted to play, but he said, as we know a few days ago, we shouldn't have even come to this place. And so where is he at emotionally, and how is that affecting the rest of the team? And then you throw on top of that, do the Bucks feel some sort of way about a large portion of the other players calling them out and being upset with them for what they did? So how does that affect them? They don't have stars. They got star, Giannis. And how do these other guys feel about that pressure that, you know, is put on them? Now, I already think, you know, I didn't pick them to win the East. I picked Toronto to come out of the East. So I already thought their players would have trouble on the grand stage, the Chris Middletons, the Eric Bledsoes, the Brook Lopez's, guys like that. Now I think you kind of put this extra thing on their shoulders, and I think it could hold them back. I think as far as LeBron, look, we've seen him play angry occasionally during his career, and it's not a good sight for the opponent. So I think he's going to come out and be tremendous. The question, again, is Anthony Davis going to come along for the ride all of the time? And are the other players going to hit threes? But I think LeBron individually will actually take his game to a higher level.
Go ahead, Skip.
You want to?
Yeah.
So, Chris, I agree with everything you said about the Bucks and George Hill, but I think because we both picked the Clippers, I believe you and I are both getting more and more worried by the minute about the Clippers. Before this all started, I wasn't sure the Clippers as a whole wanted to be in the bubble. So many of them were out of the bubble early on. They're just now coming back together. They're coming off their best game that they've played in the bubble. But their coach, Doc Rivers, gave that powerfully eloquent speech expressing his agony over all that's going on out in the real world. And I'm sure that has trickled down and affected all the players. And I'm not sure if Lou Williams wants to be there. I'm not sure. I know Paul George doesn't want to be in the bubble. It's not for those reasons, but he's got his own anxiety issues that he's facing. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at this team, and they followed LeBron out of the meeting the other day because I'm not sure the Clippers have that one ultra leader, that uber leader like LeBron James is. And now they're probably at odds about should we or shouldn't we. And Doc said his whole team thought it was over a night ago.
Right.
And now they're ready to go, but I'm not sure they're really ready to go like they should be.
Yeah, I think that's certainly a question mark. And Paul George, and you alluded to it the other day, Skip, he talked, and I respect him. And I think on a human level, it was great what he said about the depression and the mental anxiety and all of that. But are we sure he's over that? He had one great game. And he said he had to put it in his mind that he's in the Staples Center and that 20,000 people were there cheering and all of that. Can he do that every single game? You know, so there's just no guarantee that like that he was able to get over it. I know he had the great conversation with Doc Rivers, and hopefully he got over it. And really none of these guys are negatively affected, and we see them all play their best ball. But I do have concerns about the Clippers. I just can't afford to change my pick at this point.
I just think the thing is for me, Chris, is because everybody's been disrupted the same amount of time, and I think that was the thing they absolutely had to cancel Thursday's game because you'd had somebody playing on 1 day's rest while you'd had another team play, a couple of teams playing on 2 days' rest. So I think now they're going to push it all the way back to Saturday, and everybody will get the same amount of rest time. They'll end up getting 3 days and then they'll resume. So I don't think anybody, it might help the Dallas Mavericks because they might get an opportunity to get Porzingis back. It's being reported that Russ is going to play in Game 5. So it allowed him to get healthy. It might allow Patrick Beverley to get healthier and him to play. So I think it might have helped a couple of teams, but I don't think it negatively impacted any of the teams because they're going, all of them at one point in time, maybe not all the players, but maybe a few players on each team was willing to boycott. And so because they have the same amount of time off, I think it's going to impact everybody the exact same. Some teams, you know, have better players and going to be able to deal with it. But I like what Paul George had to say. Paul said, yeah, it was rough here. And I remember when the pandemic first hit and everybody's like, oh, cabin fever. And when they said they relaxed the guidelines, everybody went out and forgot like the pandemic didn't happen. But you remember, you could get in your car and leave. You might couldn't go anywhere, go in anywhere, but you can get in your car and go up to 405 and come back home. Well, just imagine them being there and they can't go anywhere.
Nope.
It's a long time, too. It's adding up. All right, Chris Broussard, always a pleasure. Thank you for your time and no changing your pick. I heard you say that. Guys, next up, the players have decided to play, but will the season look differently? Next.